Hi everyone, Sarah Picaro. Today's video is going to be about 5 ways that childhood trauma impacts, influences, affects, and can ruin your relationships, particularly your adult relationships, because most of us don't enter into close personal relationships when we're children, and we do when we're adults. And it's at that time that they're significantly impacted. And we often don't understand why we're getting into fights, why we're feeling the way that we're feeling, why we're experiencing the things that we're experiencing, and feel stuck in understanding it and knowing what to do about it. So today's video, I hope you enjoyed, is about 5 ways that childhood trauma destroys your relationship. So we're going to talk about how it influences every aspect of your adult life. It can not only ruin and destroy your close personal relationships, your romantic relationships, but also friendships, also relationships with people at your job, with your children, all kinds of relationships. We're not going to single out just one relationship here, but trauma in childhood can just impact and destroy many, many, many relationships that you have, particularly the unresolved or unhealed trauma from your childhood. So don't fear. You don't have to carry or worry about having that childhood trauma throughout your entire life. It will be there until you do something about it, something to change the way that it's impacting and influencing you and showing up within the relationship with yourself and others today. So, let's get into it. We're going to get into these crazy toxic trauma cycles that you may find yourself stuck in, and all these things that you have unfortunately inherited because you were modeled in your upbringing and your childhood. One of the ways that childhood trauma impacts or influences you as an adult is it puts you in a state of a particular type of thinking, black and white thinking, all or nothing. I've either got it all or I have nothing. I'm either on top of the world or I'm at the very bottom of the world. And childhood trauma very rarely can have us see those in between gray areas. It's either all this or none of that. I mean, try imagining trying to solve a problem or come up with a solution when that's the only way that you see the world. It's either this way or it's that way. And you don't see all of those spaces, opportunities, and different ways of viewing things in between. And that's why people will feel comfortable attaching to labels, because labels oftentimes provide an explanation. Oh, well, here's the label. I am this. So I must be all of that and none of this. I can't be happy and sad. I have the label of anxious avoidant. And so everything in my life I anxiously avoid, or a label of depression. And that describes me. So everything is depressed. I'm sad. I'm upset. I cannot find happiness in anything because of this depression, this anxiety, this attachment style that I have. It's like a sense of ownership. I either own it all and everything is fantastic and great, or I own nothing and everything is horrible and just completely dark, completely black. This cloud that's above my head just follows me everywhere. So I hope you're picking up on this. You can easily get stuck in this all or nothing thinking as a result of unhealed childhood trauma that you're still carrying around in your adult life today. Um, your brain, when you go through a series of traumatic events, adapts. Your brain is malleable, it's adaptable. It's called neurolinguistic programming. It literally becomes programmed. The neurons and the parts of your brain become programmed for this particular style or way of thinking, this all or nothing thinking, this black and white. It literally forms adaptations where in situations when it's stressed in that response, it says, okay, well, all of this, none of this, all sadness, no happiness. And now it gets caught in that cycle, in that loop, and shows up in your adult relationships. You may have evidence of having a great job, a wonderful family, a good partner now, but it seems like you can't be happy about anything. Even if you were to get a promotion at work, well, it wasn't good enough. This other person got the job that I wanted before me. So it just shows that I mean, it's, yeah, I got this, but who cares? and then linked to that depression or this feeling of just heaviness. And even when good things are occurring and happening in your life, because of those things that happened when you were a child, you can't feel or experience it today. So you drop into this all or nothing thinking, because that is now the way that your brain is hardwired to cope and feel and think and believe. And that impacts every relationship that you have, because it's starting with a relationship that you have with yourself, and everything that we have internally gets projected and shows externally. It's almost like a movie screen. So it becomes this way of coping, a coping mechanism. Well, everything goes into this bucket of it's never good enough. I guess I'm just not happy, regardless of all these external things that happen that should make you happy or should provide a source of joy. So when these adaptations show up, reflect, and carry into adulthood, from childhood, it significantly impacts every relationship, because the one relationship that we have with ourselves is most impacted by this, because we were the ones to experience the things that we experienced in childhood. And now they're showing up in our relationships in adulthood. Another way that childhood trauma impacts your adult relationships is a lack. You have a lack mentality, a lack programming, a not enough programming and mentality and capacity. So, a very limited capacity to find comfort and find joy and find happiness within a relationship, because all of those traumatic experiences that you had when you were a child were based on a relationship with mom, a relationship with dad, or a lack of relationship with mom or dad, because they were either physically absent or emotionally absent, mentally checked out, depending on the situation, maybe a really significant relationship that you had. I see this in clients even when they had a good childhood, but they moved a lot. They were unable to form strong and deep connections with people because they were moving all the time. This shows up in clients who come from military families, and even though mom or dad were working the corporate ladder, in order to do so, they had to move a lot, and so the child was impacted and was unable to form deep, significant, meaningful relationships with the kids in their class or in their grade, because they were moving a lot. They almost had to build up this wall so that they wouldn't get too close, so that they wouldn't get hurt when they had to move. So a lack of capacity to draw comfort from relationships, or the fact that you had to build up walls in order to survive, because if you did get close, you knew that you would get hurt. And so now you're an adult and you're not moving around all the time, but you still have the same lack or the same inability to find and draw connection and comfort in a relationship. Even though you're not moving all the time, and even though you're no longer a child, that inner programming is still running. All of us were hardwired to have connection and to avoid rejection. But if we think it's inevitable, we're going to be rejected, or we're going to uh, move, or not want to get hurt or be abandoned, we're going to, put up an internal wall, usually around our heart, because that's the center of us that feels connection and feels love and feels joy, feels happiness. We feel it in our heart. So we'll build up this internal wall around it to try and protect us and try and keep us safe. But then we don't get that safety, that love, that comfort, that connection from the relationship that we're in now. And so there's a disconnect, almost like a wedge or a void, because most people establish relationships. I mean, we come into this world already having been connected from our mother. We were energetically, physically, emotionally connected to our mother, which she experienced while we were in the womb. We experience, yes, consciously, we don't remember that, but we still had the experience, still had that connection and that bond, and that carries into all of our relationships. And if those needs that we had then went unmet, we developed fears of abandonment, fears of loss, fear of, this thing that I want and need is going to be taken away from me. And so I don't want that in this adult relationship, because it hurt then, it will hurt now. And I'm already used to and accustomed to that hurt. And I don't know anyone in the world who wants more hurt. So, in order to not feel more hurt, I need to create some space and some distance in that relationship. And it's really difficult in that space to be open, to be vulnerable, to be genuine, to be authentic. But we crave emotional intimacy, we crave physical intimacy, and being vulnerable, particularly for a survivor of childhood trauma, can feel like drinking poison. It can feel like, no, I'm not going to do that. I know that poison is bad for me. I know that poison will kill me. And you are telling me that I need to drink that. I'm not going to do it. And we will shut down. We will suppress, repress, depress, all of that. We will get away from it and we will avoid it. So we will avoid vulnerability. And that's the very thing that you need to have a healthy, connected, loving relationship. You need vulnerability. But if you grew up in an environment where being vulnerable led to you being punished, abused, used, now as an adult, you're not going to allow yourself to be vulnerable because this internal fear kicks in, this fight or flight response that says, no, I don't want you to do that. You're going to be used, abused, and punished again, just like you were then. And your subconscious mind or unconscious mind goes, yeah, don't do that. Stay away from that. So, the vulnerability that's required to have healthy relationships and to connect and find comfort is avoided at all costs. These internal walls get built up, or we just don't go there, or we don't let people come there or connect with that within us. So you may find that you cycle through relationships, or they always get to a point, and after a year or two, you find things have been going so well. You feel like this is the one, but boom, they want to take it further and they want to get serious and maybe talk about marriage and family or settling down, and you go, whoa, yeah, I don't think so. And then suddenly the relationship begins to fall apart, where you are married because you realize, oh, well, my partner wanted to get married. They wanted to do this, and I don't want to lose them. So I must give in. But you start to repel, you start to pull back and draw back, and then suddenly there's these issues in your relationship that weren't there before, and they're telling you, well, you've changed, and you're noticing, yeah, I have changed. I don't get this. I don't understand this. I don't know what's going on. So the relationship ends up being impacted and ends up failing, or you just feel like roommates in the relationship and both of you are left unhappy. So you start to feel like maybe yourself and this partner just feel like there's this wall. It's impenetrable. There's nothing that will get through that wall, and you're not able to show up genuinely. You're not able to show up authentically. You're scared. You're riddled with fear. And this develops a whole slew of trust issues. Maybe you find yourself doing things that you wouldn't normally do that don't feel like you. And all of that is related to and connected around these fears that you had in childhood from this childhood trauma. And then you develop the third one we're going to talk about is an inability to relax. You feel so high strung, so tightly wound, you can't just breathe, and you take on so much to fill up that relaxation time, even when you're doing things that should be relaxing, like, spending time with your family, not doing much, laying around on the couch. You find that you're filling that time by scrolling on your phone or watching Netflix, and your mind is just it's just nonstop. Even though you look on the outside like you should be relaxing, you're lying on the couch and doing nothing inside. You're not relaxing. And you're constantly in this stuck in this fight or flight, well, what's going to happen next? When is the shoe going to drop? And you're almost finding that even when things are good, you're waiting for the shoe to drop, almost like you're looking for it. Where is it? When is it going to come in? When is it going to drop? So if you had this heightened sense of danger and this heightened sense of mistrust or inability to trust, didn't feel safe in your childhood because you were raised in a chaotic environment, and you have trauma still that's unhealed from that, it's inevitable that in your relationships and in your adult life, it's not going to lead to having the ability to be able to relax. Even though you're not with your parents anymore and you're not in that environment anymore, you are out of it. It became a gateway into adulthood where these patterns, thoughts, and images and behaviors are still there. And so many times, survivors of childhood abuse rely on or turn to things to numb and avoid, like drugs or alcohol. To artificially induce relaxation, they turn to prescriptions or pills and become reliant and dependent on those to wind down, to relax. And I can't relax, I can't just chill without this, without this substance, without this product. And then you lose the ability to connect with the real you, the part of you that does know how to do that because of these unresolved traumas that are still there from childhood. And all of that, it puts this mask of authenticity on, and you feel unable to be authentic or scared to be authentic. And then you feel like the real you isn't showing up in relationships. And if only people knew the real you, they would hate you. So you never even bring the real you to the party because you feel dumb or you're just quiet around people. And so many thoughts are going on in your head of what you would say, or you're worried about what people are going to think about you when you open your mouth. And so even when you're in a space or having a time that should be enjoyable, you're not able to actually relax and sit back and be yourself or enjoy being there because of all the stuff that's going on in your head. Um, so it shows up in an inability to relax and feeling really high strung all the time. And who likes being around someone who's that high strung all the time? Not many people. And so it significantly impacts your relationships. Another sign that you have unhealed childhood trauma and a way that it will impact your adult relationships today are being unfairly attacked, like taking things personal, taking everything personal. And, there's so many sayings and memes out there that, it's not them, it's not you, it's them. Don't take it personal. It's not about you. And all those things are true. But someone who has unhealed childhood trauma and is seeing the ways that it's showing up in their relationships today, they take everything personal. It's just, again, one of those outcomes, one of those symptoms of unhealed childhood trauma is you become like a sponge and you just soak everything up, particularly in the form of attacks or tones being off. Or even like a look. Someone can just look at you and they don't even have to say anything. And it can be a complete stranger out in public. And suddenly you're taking this personal and you begin this downward spiral. Even what should be helpful or honest feedback from a kind, caring, loving person in a relationship that you have in your life, maybe a best friend or a sibling, or a uh, supportive person in your community or your circle, like, gives you a suggestion and gives you honest feedback because their intention is to help you grow and to help you improve. And you're probably putting out there that that's your desire. It becomes that comes from a place of lack and insecurity. And please, I mean, tell me what I can do to get better. And then this person will give you honest feedback or a suggestion about what you could do to improve and get better because you're putting it out there that you want to. And then that downward spirals you into like a full-fledged anxiety attack or panic attack. And you just feel completely threatened, you feel completely attacked, you're stuck in this survivor mode. And unhealed childhood trauma does leave adults stuck in this survivor mode. What do I need to do to survive? How can I get out of this? And that's that flight response. You just feel like your insides just want to run, want to get away, and you can't get away far enough. You can't get away fast enough from this. And you just have to sit there and smile and take it. And so inside is just this crazy turmoil because there's this flight response going on from this projection, from this perceived threat, even though it's actually and in reality not a threat. It's just some honest, constructive, helpful, well, what their intention is to be helpful feedback about what you can do to improve and to grow. But automatically gets connected to this threat that you had in childhood that you couldn't get away from. So you had to go into shutdown protective mode as a child to keep yourself safe. And because that trigger and that trauma is still in there, this now in your adult relationships gets connected, categorized, sorted, and attached to that. And your mind goes, oh my gosh, this is the same thing. This is the same thing. Run. And you're like, I can't run, right? This is my job, or this is my relationship, or we're married, or whatever it is. I can't get out of this. And so it will go into another response where you freeze or you react back, you fight back, maybe verbally, and then that significantly impacts your relationship. And it also gets linked to the fifth one we're going to talk about, which is having a terrifying, almost paralyzing, riddling fear of abandonment. Here you are on one hand in this relationship, which does mean a lot to you, and you're acting like a complete right? You're acting from a complete state of trauma. You are acting like a crazy person and you know it. You feel like you're going crazy. And if you're being honest with yourself and this person other says, you're crazy. I don't know what is going on. I mean, why you're acting this way. And you're probably wondering, thinking, and questioning that too. Why am I acting this way? I am going crazy. And man, if anyone knew about the stuff that I did or said in this relationship. And that's all because it's linked to this deeply rooted fear of abandonment, of rejection. So, having survived a childhood that was extremely traumatic, but still having those unhealed wounds from it, when you're in your adult relationships now, you have this inner sense of don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. I will not survive without you. I don't know what I'll do without you. I won't make it without you. And so it leaves that survivor of childhood trauma to be dishonest, to lie, to fail to set boundaries, and those small white lies because you're trying to change and manipulate the situation, or even say things like, I didn't say that, that's not what I meant, what I meant was this, and enter into almost like these fights with another person, with a partner, or with your kids, or with the boss. It's like, no, that's not what I said. And to be dishonest and to lie and to fail to set healthy boundaries that have equivalent consequences, and you fail to follow through with those consequences, and you seek external validation, you seek external attention from any source because you don't have it within yourself and you need it. I mean, we all need that. That's why it feels so good to feel heard and understood and accepted and belong. And you want those things, but you don't feel those things. So you set out to seek them externally. So it's not really the source material for trust, that's a trusting, secure, stable relationship that you will find if you still have these inner unhealed wounds. You'll see them show up in your adult relationships, and you will connect with those things like anxious attachment style, avoidant attachment style, when what you're longing for, hoping for, and searching for is a secure attachment style. That will come when you face the inner unhealed things that you haven't faced or dealt with yet. And all of those are stored at the unconscious level in your mind because they happened many, many years or decades ago. So you can always feel as a survivor from childhood trauma that it's safer to have one foot out the door, and you'll find that even within yourself and perhaps in the partner and the relationship that you chose, no wonder you feel just so disconnected because both of you are like this. You both have one foot out the door. You want to feel like this and you want to feel one, you want to feel whole, you want to feel safe together. How can you feel safe together? Both of you are about to run out the door because you've both got one foot out, one foot in, right? But it can it can leave you in a place of constantly feeling like, should I go? Should I stay? I don't know what to do. And creating a sense of safety. And if your environment was unsafe as a child and it was very chaotic, in a backwards twisted way, that felt normal to you, or that's just what you grew to know. And in a weird way, well, that was safe, and I made it through, right? So I did what I had to do then to protect myself and keep myself safe, and I'm going to do the same thing now because it's what I know. And so you're keeping one foot out the door, you have this fear of abandonment, and you almost create situations within the relationship that you can control the abandonment. Maybe you're the one that starts the fight and you're the one that threatens to leave or get divorced or break it off, even though you don't want to, but it gives you more of a sense of control in this environment and in this relationship because of that terrifying and debilitating fear of abandonment and rejection. If you're the one to do it first, then your unconscious mind is almost like telling you it'll hurt less if you're the one to do it and not have it done to you. So, if you are ready to do the inner work to heal after identifying, okay, I've got inner unhealed wounds from my childhood and it's impacting and affecting every adult relationship that I have today, even ones that I'm in this great relationship with this person now. And they do love me and they do support me, but I feel like I'm ruining it and I hate that. And this person doesn't deserve that. Or maybe you're in a relationship with someone extremely toxic and you're wondering, what is it within me that finds myself in relationships with people like this all the time? I've been in multiple relationships, but they all seem to have the same common theme. What's going on? Well, chances are what's going on is your inner unhealed wounds from your childhood are being projected outwardly. So, in order to change anything, you have to begin with yourself. And the most powerful way to access and resource those programs within your mind are by getting straight to the source, by going straight to the unconscious mind and making the connection there. So that is where the extremely powerful work using hypnosis comes in. So I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I would love to guide you to that place so that you can have that inner peace and have it show up in the most beautiful, profound ways in all of your relationships with your, with a personal partner, with friends, with your children, with the relationships that you have at work, and just break through all of those negative limiting thoughts, feelings, beliefs that you have about yourself so that you can show up as the most genuine, true, authentic you and feel safe in that space. So, thank you for tuning in and watching this video. If you were sick and tired of going through the same cycle in your life with these relationships and are ready and willing to do the inner work to heal, I would love to connect. You can find information and ways to connect through my website, and there are links in the video below this description to do so. Thank you guys.